Hello, everyone. What's going on?
Americans have long been the biggest consumers on the planet, and American consumption has grown and grown over time. Americans bought 68 new items of clothing last year, a huge increase from the 12 items a year that they used to buy in the 1980s. Their spending on that clothing, however, has fallen. In the 1980s, the average American spent 7% of their annual income on clothing, while today they just spend 3%. So for less than half of the spending, shoppers today are getting almost 6 times as many items. According to JP Morgan, since the turn of the century, real personal consumption growth in the United States, meaning inflation-adjusted consumption growth, averaged 2.5%. But in the second half of 2023, that rose above 3%, even with the higher interest rates and elevated but declining inflation. Consumer spending accounts for almost 70% of US GDP, and while consumption in Europe has grown over time too, Europeans tend to spend less time at work than Americans, do more work at home, and they have lower overall consumption. For decades, the American consumer has powered not just the world's biggest economy, but the entire global economy. According to the World Bank, Americans...
Glad you like the new vid. Oh. Yeah, bro, I gotta get some Chinese food tomorrow. I am fucking drained. It was... Yeah, what are we at here?
make up around 1/3 of global consumer spending, but are only 4% of the global population. We should only be so surprised by this. Americans are amongst the most productive workers in the world and thus are amongst the best paid. The fact that they're both busy and highly paid makes them naturally big consumers. Over the last 50 years, the United States has had just 4 significant dips in consumer spending.
You're right, Andrew Huberman is a charlatan. He was talking to Mark Heyman about seed oils. Oh, God. Yep. That is brutal.
React to this, VG.
Let me take
Guys, I'm asking you, whether you're right wing, left wing, whatever wing you're in, right? Is there any force on earth that can get you to starve 3,700 children to death?
No.
Here we go.
Because right now, those kids who were diagnosed with acute child
please show me the evidence that over 250,000 kids in Gaza starved to death. I'd love to see that.
malnutrition last month are about to die.
In the 6 weeks since Israel ended its ceasefire with Hamas, the Israeli Defense Forces...
Oh, look, a child who is not starving and looks to be normal weight.
...have basically drastically altered Gaza's map in order to take control, complete control of 70% of Palestinian territory. So I'm going to show you this map so you can...
Yes, we're going to watch Piers Morgan.
Destiny lawsuit update. The TRO was objected and Pixie lawyers respond to evidentiary objections to injunction with more new evidence. More useless hearsay. Will likely have judge dismiss the crucial federal charge, causing her to refile in state court.
Yeah, and then she's probably going to lose that too. So stupid. Like, again, it's not like any of the money on lawyers is at her expense. A bunch of dumb simps gave her like 50 grand. And she figured, might as well try. So, yeah. Thanks for the donation, retard.
Can visualize exactly what I'm talking about here. This map
Yeah, I've seen the movie Big Lebowski. It was pretty funny.
was put together by the Washington Post. And if you look at it, and as you can see from this map, which uses data from the Israeli Defense Force.
Dodo Donatellas, can you react?
So everything is falling apart right now. We've got prolonged conflict.
Yeah, I guess we could. I do hate, what's his name? Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
All the shaded areas represent parts of Gaza that Palestinians are now barred from being in. So the darker shading indicates areas in Gaza where Palestinians have been ordered to evacuate. The lighter shading represents areas that are considered military red zones, where Palestinians will literally be killed on the spot if they enter. Now, you might be
Okay, so don't go there.
asking yourself, how is that different from other parts of the Gaza Strip? And the answer is, I guess it gives the IDF a little more justification in their eyes to just indiscriminately kill people. But that is happening
Yeah, right, sure.
throughout the entirety of the Gaza Strip. Let's be clear about that. In total, the shaded areas make up.
You know, I wonder if they even realize how gay they sound saying all this stupid shit. Like, they're just absolute fucking hacks.
68% of the Gaza Strip, Cenk.
Yeah, but no, this is about self-defense.
Yes, and that is less preferable than Hamas having control of 100% and killing innocent people. Okay.
Right.
Of a attack that happened literally years ago. It happened in the year 2023. We're in the middle of the year of 2025. And oh golly gee, did I occupy 70% of Gaza? Or do I?
Do you know how war works by any chance? Like, you realize when the United States, like, you know, went to war with Germany, they occupied Germany. That's sort of how war works. I mean, like, it's just so bizarre, everything they're saying. It's like, Israel's using bombs to kill people. Can you believe that? Their soldiers have guns. Like, I don't know what to say. Okay, yeah, that's how war works.
Conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The United States stock market is basically crashing as we speak. And on top of that, we have a loneliness epidemic, not only amongst young men, but amongst young people as a whole. We have the lowest rates of birth in some countries that are probably going to herald economic ruin. And so everything seems to be falling apart. And no one knows what to do about it. And today, we're going to try to fix that. Now, I know that sounds impossible, but I would love to share with y'all a path of how to move forward when the world is falling apart. Now, in order to do this, the first thing...
Ethan Klein iDubbbz drama update. iCucks releases new video on Ethan that is somehow twice as bad as the last and half as long. It's very, very bad and batshit insane. Also, he makes a Creator Clash announcement. I won't spoil anything if you wanna watch.
I think I already heard about some of it. He actually sold off the intellectual property to someone else, and he's not involved in Creator Clash anymore because he saw the writing on the wall and he was just going to lose money. And I think he blamed Ethan for the Creator Clash thing, which is
Once
just
again, did
crazy.
Anna or Cenk even go to school in their youth?
They did, but they're very stupid, so it's not like school's gonna help them much. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
thing we have to do is understand why we are so crippled to move forward when there is uncertainty all around us, right? So in medicine, and I'm a psychiatrist, by the way, hello, my name is Dr. Alok Kanoja. One of the big things that we believe in medicine is that good diagnosis precedes good treatment. So if you want to fix a problem, we have to start by understanding what the problem really is. And I don't know if this makes sense, but the world falling apart around us is not the problem, right? So the first thing we've got to understand is the problem is that you have difficulty moving forward and figuring out what to do when the world is falling apart. Now, this may sound kind of confusing, but I'd love to share with y'all like something cool that I learned, which is that if you look at the Japanese kanji for crisis, this is also the Chinese character for crisis, it's a combination of two characters, danger plus opportunity. And even though the stock market is falling apart, there are people like Warren Buffett who are sitting on $334 billion in cash. When there's uncertainty in the world, there are some people who are able to use that uncertainty to maximally improve their lives, whereas the vast majority of people get absolutely crippled when the world is falling apart, right? These are the times, as my financial advisor told me before, these are the times that fortunes are made. It encouraged me to buy the dip. And so I did spend some of the money that I had on buying the dip.
Well then, that was one vile waste of an education.
Yeah, they're definitely the types of people to waste a teacher's time. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
Dip, and then I texted him back the next day and said, these are the times that fortunes are also lost, bro. So in order to understand how to make something of it and how to move forward, we have to understand how we got here in the first place. And it starts with, if you are someone who is between a millennial and Gen Alpha, you've basically been chronically traumatized for the majority of your life. Now, I know that sounds kind of weird because when we
No. They have not been chronically traumatized.
normally think about trauma, we think about things like physical abuse or emotional abuse. That's not what I'm talking about. So what we have to first understand is that anytime we are faced with a trauma, our bodies, our brains will adapt, right? So if I get cut on my arm, the body will form a scar tissue. This is a trauma that results in a response. So we as millennials through Gen Alpha have been taught and have been forced to adapt to certain circumstances in ways that cripple us. So the problem with trauma is that after we adapt to it, over time, it becomes maladaptive. So I'll give you all a simple example. Let's say I did get bullied a lot in grade school, high school, middle school, all throughout the schools. I was bullied a lot. So one of the adaptations that I make when I get traumatized or when I get bullied is that I learn how to be invisible. Now that worked really well for a while because I got bullied less in high school because I got really good at being invisible. But then college came around and I started crushing on a girl and I'd spent all of my experience points and leveling up character points in the invisibility skill instead of the talking to other human beings skill. And so then I found myself having an adaptation that worked really well.
The reason you had any problems is because you're a bitch. Like, if you had just, like, lifted weights or taken up boxing or something, or even just fought back and got your ass kicked over and over again, I mean, that would have solved the problem.
And caused me problems. If y'all want to dive deep into the most important topics for our community, check out HE memberships. So the first thing to understand is that there needs to be no
I'm turning 34 next month.
Main adaptation that we have is something called the paralysis of initiation. You heard that, right? Paralysis of initiation, when you struggle to do anything, right? When you get up in the morning and you're like, I don't feel like doing anything today. And then it's really hard to get yourself to do the bare minimum. This is not because you are lazy. This is because you have been possibly repeatedly traumatized by society and you have adapted into something called the paralysis of initiation. So I know this sounds crazy, but Dr. Judith Herman, who coined the term complex PTSD, basically sort of explained this concept and we'll explain it to you now. So complex PTSD was originally researched.
Okay. Buddy, this is a fucking dumbass old bitch. Fucking... Bro. A syndrome in survivors of prolonged and repeated trauma. Oh my god, dude. Everyone has to deal with horse shit on a near daily basis. Does, like, by this definition, everyone has PTSD. Like, yeah, fucking annoying shit happens to you. That doesn't mean you have PTSD. Like, holy fuck. You're gonna listen to some fucking dumbass old bitch about mental health who's probably just some whiny fucking Karen who came up with this fucking idea because she's just coping for her own horse shit? Like, rather than just admitting she's like some annoying whiny cunt, I have complex PTSD. It's a special and unique illness that makes me a special snowflake. Fuck right off, dude.
Explain this concept, and we'll explain it to you now. So complex PTSD was originally researched in POW survivors, so prisoners of war. And basically what happens when you are a prisoner of war is you are faced against unsolvable circumstances, right? You're surrounded by guards. You're stuck in this prisoner of war camp. You have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea when it's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to be safe. You don't know if everything's going to fall apart, but these circumstances are bad. And when you're a prisoner of war and people are
How in the fuck is that any different from PTSD? Was this even, that doesn't even sound like it was part of this person's thesis. Where in the fuck is the tab? Oh, Jesus. Paper reviews the evidence existence of complex form of post-traumatic disorder in survivors of prolonged repeat trauma, currently under consideration, DSM 4, under the name of Desnos, disorder of extreme stress, not otherwise specified. Diagnosis formulation, PTSD derives primarily from observations of survivors of relatively circumscribed traumatic events. This formulation fails to capture the protein sequelae of prolonged repeated trauma. In contrast to a single traumatic event, prolonged repeated trauma can occur only when the victim is in a state of captivity under control of a perpetrator. Psychological impact of subordination to coercive control, common features. Sounds like they don't, like, at least in the abstract, they didn't mention POWs. Oh my god, why is this a problem? I love how they use, like, the most retarded fucking font for this shit. Captivity, unable to flee, perpetrator, prisons, concentration camps, slave labor camps. Such conditions also exist in some religious cults, brothels, institutions of organized sexual exploitation, families. Captivity, prolonged contact, blah, 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 something, something. Okay, so they do mention it in the introduction.
Term complex PTSD basically sort of explain this concept, and we'll explain it to you now. So complex PTSD was originally researched in POW survivors, so prisoners of war. And basically what happens when you are a prisoner of war is you are faced against unsolvable circumstances, right? You're surrounded by guards. You're stuck in this prisoner of war camp. You have no idea what's going to happen. You have no idea when it's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to be safe. You don't know if everything's going to fall apart, but these circumstances are bad. And when you're a prisoner of war and people are, taking things away from you and suppressing you and all this good stuff, sound familiar, by the way? The first thing that you feel is anger, and you feel incredibly angry. But then if you express that anger towards guards, you get punished for it. So how does the brain survive when our drive to correct things gets punished? For example, in growing up around 2010 to 2015, and everyone says, go to college. That will help you get a good job.
Anyone who's ever had a job would have some experience with that. If you've ever gone to school, you would have had some experience with that. If you were raised by parents, you would have had some experience with that. Like, I mean, obviously when you have some sort of power dynamic where if you don't like something and then you speak up, and then you have some dumb bitch teacher or your dumb bitch parents or your dumb bitch boss doesn't like it, they're gonna, like, fire you or go to the principal's office. Everyone fucking deals with this shit.
So you sign up for college and you get hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, and then you sort of finish college and the job market sucks and you have a bunch of debt and you have no idea what to do. What is the adaptation that you are going to learn? You're going to learn to do absolutely nothing. And this is exactly what happened in the prisoners of war. So what they learn, what the adaptation they form is when circumstances are uncertain and when I have no power in the world, the best thing to do is to conserve my energy and not try to initiate anything, because if I try to initiate something, things aren't going to work out. So I want y'all to think about this, right? So if you've worked really hard and you have nothing to show for it, what is your brain going to learn from that? It's going to learn to do absolutely nothing. So what are the traumas that have created this paralysis of initiation? So I am a millennial. First thing that happened to us was September 9/11. So this is where we sort of felt that we sort of learned as a society.
What? Millennials have been traumatized by 9/11?
That even if you're like, in New York City and you're a banker who's working in one of the Twin Towers, the world is not safe. So the world became unsafe in 2001. Next thing that happened is 2007 to 2008, we had a
This guy is retarded.
subprime mortgage crisis where a bunch of people went bankrupt and things like that. So like 2001, major trauma, 2007, 2008, major trauma. Things got better for a couple of years. People were sort of coming out of it, but this is when the student loan problem started to really balloon in the United States, where if you look at the cost of tuition for universities, it rose by like 400% or something insane. So we have
This is genuinely some of the most retarded, insane bullshit I've ever heard in my fucking life. And he's teaching people to think like a victim. Oh, 9/11, subprime mortgage crisis. Oh, no wonder I'm so messed up. What am I eating? It's tofu with Korean barbecue sauce.
have 2001, we have 2007, 2008. We have a group of people who are graduating around 2015, 2016, 2017 with a lot of crippling debt. Everyone said become a programmer, and then COVID hit, right? So COVID was the next thing that sort of taught us that we could not plan for the future. It's about surviving today. And then once COVID hit, a lot of other cracks in society started to show. We discovered that we were in a mental health crisis.
This guy seems like just outrageously uncultured. There have been economic crises every fucking single decade. Like, with maybe the exception being the 1980s. But, like, buddy, there was the fucking Great Depression, World War I, World War II. You had a oil shortage in the 1970s. Like, there's Iran-Contra with the fucking cocaine smuggling and the crack epidemic. There were polio outbreaks in the United States up until the fucking 1960s. Like, I mean, the amount of fucking horse shit that older generations had to deal with compared to now is, like, fucking nothing. And this guy's acting like, oh, millennials are special and unique. You had it worse than every other generation. Oh, yeah, but your fucking dad or grandparents got through the fucking Great Depression, World Wars, polio, Vietnam, oil shortages. Like, fuck right off, dude.
We have an addictive technology crisis.
Oh, I forgot. HIV. HIV was a fucking new thing. The HIV fucking pandemic. Like, dude, give me a fucking break.
We have a loneliness epidemic. So we're starting to see all kinds of problems in dating and mating. No one knows how to survive. No one knows how to succeed. No one knows how to do anything. When faced with these repeated problems, we end up just being paralyzed. We don't know how to move forward in the face of chaos. But that's not the whole of the situation. There is another macroscopic force that I've sort of noticed, which is that we've also adopted a culture of victimhood. So in the past, like back in the wild
He's literally promoting a culture of victimhood.
West, we used to have something called a culture of honor, which means that, like, if I am like a cowboy and someone wrongs me in some way, I have to correct that wrong. If I don't stand up to people who take advantage of me, then I will be taken advantage of. There is no larger institution in the wild West. There's no really law or order that is pervasive that I can go to. There's like a very rudimentary court system. Maybe there's a sheriff out there. But generally speaking, if someone wronged me, I had to do something about it in order to fix things. So over the last 20 years, our culture has shifted into something called a culture of victimhood. Now, what does that mean? That means that if I want to advance my goals in life, one of the most powerful things that I can do is play the victim. So for example, when I was growing up...
Yeah, that's why women make false rape claims. And I mean, this just stems from fucking Marxist ideology.
I was thinking of getting a tablet to watch movies on. Any recommendations, and do you know how large of an external storage device they can read? They have a USB port, right?
I haven't looked at tablets in a while.
What's up, bud? Hope you're doing well. Started eating vegan recently. Here's a few bucks for influencing the change.
Well, thanks for the donation, Zaddy Daddy. That's good to hear, too. I haven't looked at tablets in a while. I know there's been a bunch of Apple iPads that have come down in price, but if you just want to download movies and put them on the device, an Android-based tablet is probably going to be the best choice for you. Especially if you don't want to use any specific like drawing apps or anything, just get an Android-based tablet. So just look at what Samsung, probably Samsung tablets would be the best ones. And just make sure they're powerful enough to play like 4K, 4K movies without slowing down. You can also probably find ones used for very cheap. But again, just make sure they're new enough where they can play 4K video without any problem. And I don't know why you'd want to use external storage on a tablet. Like, the whole point of a tablet is to be very portable. So I would just look at tablets that have a high amount of internal memory. But yeah, they do have a USB port. I don't know how well they work with external storage, or if some of them even can, because, again, they're tablets, not laptops. Thanks for the donation, though, Boopity Bop. Do you like archery? Yes, I've done archery since I was, like, 8 or 9 years old or something.
Up and I got bullied, no one told me to go tell the teacher. The teacher didn't do anything about it. If I got bullied every day, like, that was something I had to deal with. But as we grew up and we realized bullying is bad, we started telling our children to tell the teacher. The teacher will protect you. Our institutions will protect you, right? So as you have problems, what used to happen is people used to fix their own problems and not rely on institutions or higher authorities to fix things for us. But now what we've started to do is, if something is wrong in my life, the way to fix it is to appeal to someone else and say, hey, I am a victim. This is unfair. I want you to fix it for me. So you may have sort of noticed that in your friend circle, in your family, in your workplace, one of the quickest ways that someone would overcome you is to play the victim. So we have Bridezillas now, we have Karens all over the place. And what is like the MO, the modus operandi of a Karen? The MO of a Karen is to say, I have been victimized. This person is victimizing me by, I don't know, ordering soy milk instead of whole milk or organic milk or whatever, right? So people are playing the victim in order to advance their interests. Now, the culture of victimhood only works if there are large institutions that are sort of invested in fairness and are hoping to kind of like make everything even for everybody.
Well, that's not true. You don't need a large institution. You just need social groups that protect that behavior. And again, like the whole victim thing, that's just Marxist ideology.
But the problem is that we sort of learned, okay, so now if I'm like unhappy with my job, the right thing is for someone else to fix it, right? There's a power imbalance here, and I'm not saying there isn't a power imbalance, but the question is, what is the method we use to fix that power imbalance? We appeal to other people. So what this has sort of created is a society of people, a generation of people who sort of relies on other institutions.
Hi VG. Hope you are doing great. Would you recommend creatine for brain health?
Well, it seems to improve cognitive performance as far as like preventing age-related cognitive decline or dementia. I don't know if it would have any benefit, but yeah, it does seem to have benefits for cognitive function. Thanks for the donation, Janya.
Instead of taking responsibility themselves. Now, you may ask, how did we get to the culture of victimhood? And this is where I think we get to think about the generation that came before us. Right? So the generation that came before us basically had a lot of luck. We had an unprecedented level of economic growth between like the 50s and basically 2000, 2005, 2004. So you had a generation of people who basically rode a wave of economic prosperity and sort of thought they were working really hard, but weren't actually working really hard. So they believed that working really hard was sufficient. But our society has changed. So now we're in a situation where basically we've been told, hey, if you work really hard, things will work out. And at the same time, we've sort of adopted this idea that if something is wrong in the world, it is someone else's responsibility to fix it. So I've seen a bunch of like posts recently from people who are millennials to Gen Alpha who are kind of like saying, is this what life is? Am I supposed to grind for 40 hours a week, commute for 2 hours a week? And like, this is not what life is supposed to be. Where is fulfillment? Where is my joy? Why, is this what life is supposed to be? And this is where I got to say, like, honestly, where did you get the idea that life was supposed to be more than that, right? So if we sort of look at like life outside of human beings, what we find is that every day is a struggle for survival, right? So animals get like eaten by other animals. There are droughts and there are floods and there are all kinds of problems where
The difference, though, is when you're looking at like tribal societies or hunter-gatherers, there's a much greater degree of personal agency when it comes to your success or failures. I think the reason why a lot of people are really annoyed at typical, I don't know, like white collar sort of work is it's very clear that what they're doing and the amount of work they're doing is not proportionate to their income, and they're also doing things that they have no actual personal interest or motivation in. Whereas, again, if you're a hunter-gatherer, you do have a personal interest and motivation to eat food. So your daily tasks revolve around finding food. So you have a much more direct motivation to do something like that and work hard to get food because it's something you have direct interest in, and the effort you put into it is proportionate to whatever reward you get. Whereas a lot of modern work isn't like that. I think that's why a lot of people find that frustrating. And on top of that, society is just fucking stupid. Like, if you compare the US to Europe, Europeans work, like, 30% less and have arguably better standards of living in a lot of ways. So, internet, being able to compare yourself to other people and cultures, that's also very frustrating.
Frank makes huge errors representing himself right off the bat. Read Saladino's lawyer's letter to the judge. 2 pages. Frank's filing is schizophrenic too, if you're curious.
Oh, I would imagine. Yeah, he's representing himself like a fucking retard. I'll just download this and then read it. Let's see. Honorable Judith McCarthy, blah, blah, blah. Dear Magistrate, I am counsel for plaintiff and right to request a conference regarding defendant Frank Tufano. Mr. Tufano's status as a pro-SE litigant, the representation of defendant Frankie Strange, Mate LLC. Mr. Tufano's recent motion filings to his docket. We ask the court's assistance to clarify status of defendant's representation, to set a briefing schedule if any is required, to respond to new filings submitted by defendants. As this court is aware, on January 30th, 2025, District Judge Nelson entered an order of default to Mr. Tufano and referred this case to Your Honor for an inquest after default damages hearing. This court held a telephone conference and set a briefing schedule for the inquest after default, with plaintiff's application for inquest due March 21st, 2025, defendant's response due April 4th, and plaintiff's reply due April 11th. Through these default proceedings and during February 26, 2025, telephone conference, Mr. Tufano were represented by counsel Mr. Farouk Nuridinov. Since his appearance, Mr. Nuridinov and I have communicated many times concerning this case, including by email. Plaintiff submitted his application, blah, blah, blah. Reporting pro se filed a motion to vacate inquest. This is like the worst time to fire your fucking lawyer, too. Just bizarre. Containing arguments in opposition to plaintiff's application, plaintiff construed this filing as an opposition to the application for inquest and replied to it on April 11th. Tufano submitted 2 more pro se filings, motion to dismiss. He can't dismiss. In response to support of application to vacate inquest and request for postponement of case to medical emergency. Oh my god, what a retard. According to the court docket, Mr. Tufano and FMR are still represented by counsel. Tufano's status as a pro se litigant has not been granted by the court. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that. He didn't actually... Oh my god, what a fucking moron. He didn't realize that he had to get permission from the court. Mr. Nuridinov has not applied to this court to withdraw his representation and remains counsel of record. It is unclear why Tufano is filing as a pro se litigant. Further, as Tufano has already been informed, FFRM as a corporate entity requires legal representation. See memo endorsed order granting motion to withdraw. If defendant intends to proceed pro se, counsel must still be retained for the corporate defendant. Second Circuit case law indicates that pro se litigant cannot represent a corporate entity. We ask the court to set a conference to clarify defendants and Mr. Nuridinov's relationship. So we can't, like, oh my, this is just so outrageously stupid. Relatedly, Mr. Tufano has now filed 3 separate motions: motion to vacate default, which you can't do, motion to dismiss, which you can't do, and a response to request postponement. It is plaintiff's position that all these filings are procedurally and legally deficient. However, we request that the court clarify which motions should be responded to and which should be treated as oppositions or improperly filed surreplies. Accordingly, plaintiff requested the court hold a conference requiring the attendance of both Mr. Nuridinov and Mr. Tufano to determine the representation status of defendants, and if necessary, to set a briefing schedule for the motions that are being submitted by Mr. Tufano. Dude, I have no idea what the fuck this retard is doing. Like, genuinely baffling, insane nonsense. He is just the lol cow that keeps on giving. Thanks for the donation, retard.
Struggle for survival is the point of life. This broader idea of fulfillment is something that was somewhere along the way we got it in our heads, where life is supposed to be like winnable.
There's no point to life. What he's saying is wrong. Everything's meaningless. You can make whatever... Your opinion on what life is, what it's about, it's just your opinion. It can be whatever you want.
Whereas when I really look at it, life is not really like winnable in its default state. Life is a struggle in its default state. And that's what I think what we're experiencing. Now, this may seem really tone deaf to you, right? So you may say, but like, Dr. K, that's not fair, because there are so many other people for whom life is easy and we should distribute the wealth and things should be easier for me. So this is where I say, okay, so let's like think about this for a second, okay? I don't disagree with you, but what are you going to do about it, right? When we say life should be a certain way, whose responsibility is it to make it the way it should be? If you are unwilling to act in order to turn the world into what it should be, I don't know what to tell you. So I agree with you that life should be fairer. I agree with you that people should be nicer. I agree with you that there should be more economic opportunity.
Well, I agree with this sentiment.
There's a lot that can be done. So I know it sounds insane, but just hear me out, okay? The first thing to understand is that we don't control the circumstances, right? We don't control whether Russia and war are at Ukraine, unless you're like, you know, a head of state who's watching this video. But generally speaking, we do not control the circumstances of our lives. We don't control the economy. We don't control who's at war. We don't control whether there's inflation or not, right? So we are sort of like sitting there, like I spawn into the earth, and then there's like all these like RNG really bad events that are completely out of our control. And yet, 75% of people get crippled by this, and 25% of people thrive. So the first thing is you don't control your circumstances. So what do you control? You control how you respond to your circumstances. You control what you do in the face of adversity. And this is where it's really hard to think about this, because you think that
So I'd agree with this.
Sometimes it feels like anxiety. Sometimes it feels like a longing for relief. Sometimes it feels like anger towards the world. Sometimes it feels like there's nothing I can do. So I want y'all to understand this is really important. So craving for dopamine happens, let's say, in our nucleus accumbens. So our brain wants dopamine. What is the subjective feeling of craving for dopamine? What does it feel like to crave dopamine? Do you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for I need to inject that dopamine in my veins. Oh my God, I need that dopamine. I need that dopamine. Come on, give me that dopamine.
This dopamine shit is just nonsense. People keep talking about dopamine because of Huberman. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
That's not what it feels like. What it feels like, so this is crazy, is a motivation. If you wake up in the morning and you do not feel like doing anything, that is a craving for dopamine. It feels like boredom. So I want you all to think about this for a second. What is boredom? Boredom is a state of mind that is uncomfortable in our body and our mind that causes us to seek certain things, right? So when I'm hungry, I seek something. When I'm thirsty, I seek something. What does boredom cause me to seek? It causes me to seek a device. It causes me to seek pornography. It causes me to pull out our phone. So boredom and a motivation are actually cravings for dopamine. And we spend
I don't know if I'd really agree with that. That doesn't really make complete sense.
our days searching for dopamine and finding dopamine instead of actually improving our lives. So a lot of people ask, okay, so what should I do? There is a lot of uncertainty in the world, but I can't fix my circumstances. Fair enough, but there's still a huge problem, which is, what do I do, right? So even if I can't fix my circumstances, what is the right to respond to your circumstances? Think about what is the wrong way to respond to your circumstances, and don't do that. The number one thing that I've seen, whether I'm working with CEOs who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars or
Whatever. Just blabbing.
The biggest having occurred in 2020 when the global pandemic struck. At the start of the pandemic, Americans slashed all spending, and we saw a massive boost in personal savings as the government pumped a load of money into the economy. Nobody was traveling, people couldn't eat out, they didn't lose their jobs and could suddenly work from home. Most Americans continued to earn money and were simply spending less. Poorer Americans who lived paycheck to paycheck suddenly had free time for the first time in their working lives, and due to stimulus checks also had savings, which many had never really had before. People's bank accounts grew, and once the COVID restrictions started to ease, they went on a spending spree. While Americans stopped spending on restaurants, vacations, and their daily commutes during the pandemic, they spent much more on physical goods. They cancelled gym memberships and bought things like treadmills. During that period, the world spent 5% more.
Natty or not? 1.
Let me see. She is probably natty. I'd be surprised if she wasn't. She is also probably natty. She does have a bit of Asian girl butt syndrome, but she has like a bit of a nice shape here. It's not a big butt, it's not flat, but it's a cute butt with a little bump. I would also say in all likelihood natty. Yeah, those girls are pretty cute. Thanks for the donation, natty or not.
More on physical goods, but the undefeated American consumer spent 10% more. I asked my viewers in a community post what goods Americans buy that the rest of the world doesn't. The most popular answer was guns and ammo. There were also huge trucks and, of course, truck nuts. Whenever I see things like that,
Thanks for answering the tablet question. When I finally own my own place, I'm thinking I'll want a little pond. Other than those fish that just suck on algae, what could I put in it that wouldn't need fed non-vegan shit?
If you have an outdoor pond, you're going to want to make sure birds don't get to them. So you might want to put like a cage or something around the pond. My grandfather's brother had a pond in his backyard, and he had these really nice goldfish, and a cormorant came by and ate them all. But I have no idea. I have no fucking clue. Maybe a turtle, but I don't know. Thanks for the donation, Boopity Bop.
I always imagine how confused the Chinese factory workers who make them must be. I imagine they have long conversations in the evening with their friends and families about who buys these things and what for. There's no way around it, though. Americans do love spending, and not just on necessities like tattoos, baseball caps, massive water bottles, and aerosol cheese. I spoke to a friend a few years ago.
Motion to postpone for medicalism. Writes like a schizophrenic redditor and is full of crying and bitching about Paul and his counsel. 8 pages, so save for later if you want.
Oh, god damn it. There we go. Failed to provide legitimate sources from entities tied to this lawsuit. Continues to use documentation about outside entities. Why is he doing this when, like, he knows that stupid lie won't work? Cherry-picked videos from Frank Tufano's YouTube channel to create a false narrative, mainly by omitting Frank Tufano's hardships of having his New York business shut down. What does that have to do with him making up lies about Paul? Provided no proof of significant income or assets? Yeah, he did. He has your tax filings. He made $5 million in gross revenue. Medical issues have left him financially crippled, partially blind, waiting disability approval, unable to work. Oh my god. Medical issues have greatly impacted, blah, blah, blah. Continues to refer to Frankie's Free Range Meat LLC as FFRM, which is factually incorrect. Entity that David is going after for monetary damages went out of business. That's not true. Why does he keep saying that when he knows this lie doesn't work? Any income documentation past the middle of 2021 would not apply to this lawsuit. Claims there is evidence of millions of dollars of income, but the documents he provided do not state the entities named in the lawsuit. It's literally your own tax filings, you fucking retard. Clear that David was unable to find proof of income. Why is he saying this over and over and over again? Paul Saladino has clearly not suffered any monetary damages, social media, presence business. Well, that, oh my god. Any claim that Paul Saladino's reputation suffering completely negated by his gigantic social media. Oh, so I did fuck with you and break the law, but it's not a big deal. You're rich anyway. Profited substantially to the point that he's been able to spend nearly $100,000 in legal counsel. Only representing himself in this lawsuit. Frankie's Free Range Meat LLC may go unrepresented. However, Frank Tufano urges the court not to grant any sort of judgment against the LLC. Wait! So he's admitting this is the right LLC. He contradicted himself. He said it went out of business, then he's saying, oh, it didn't go out of business. What the, like, is he that stupid? Oh my god, dude.
Frank's defense is literally my life is hard and I'm a retard, give me a pass.
Buddy, like, I'm sure his lawyer thinks he's fucking unhinged. They should use that as a legal defense. Like, actually get him an IQ test and, like, a comprehensive mental health assessment. Like, he has to be borderline retarded and suffer from some sort of mental illness. Like, at least, at least it's something. Like, use a mental health defense or something. Yeah, my client is a certified retard, and there's literally no point in suing him because he's a retard and everyone knows he's a retard. He just does dumb things and he doesn't have a carer. Like, that would be a better legal defense than this. Dude, he literally admitted to lying. This is crazy. Thanks, Majin Buu. Christopher Hatch donated $2.
Hi, I have an appointment.
Wow.
Excuse me, I had an appointment for today.
Oh. Oh, doggy's scared.
Excuse me, I had an appointment for today.
Hello, mate. Do you do puncture repairs?
Mi amigo, véndame un par de zapatos, hágame el favor, que sean estos. ¿Este zapato lo tiene mi amigo?
Hi, excuse me, I had an appointment for today.
Oh, those are nice dogs.
An appointment for today.
Those are really nice
Excuse me, I had an
dogs.
appointment for today.
Oh. So pretty.
Hi, I'm just here to check in for my appointment.
Hi, I have an appointment today.
He's new, sorry.
And then like it's like right you know, but at the same time I don't know because
Can you hold the fucking light straight?
Well, those are some good dogs. Thanks for the donation, Christopher Hatch. Yeah, dude, this is absolutely schizophrenic. Frank Tufano is only representing himself in the lawsuit. The entity's Frankie's Free Range Meat LLC may go unrepresented. This is the business that he claims to not exist, so he's admitting it does exist. And then he says there's no reason to issue a judgment against a closed business that is shut. Then, like, oh my god, he's so stupid. The business does exist. The business doesn't exist. It does exist. It doesn't exist. The information from the subpoenas was fraudulently obtained because the documents that David Linesk has presented are from entities not named in this lawsuit. We already know that's not true. I don't know why. He must be, like, not smart enough to realize, like, he's caught lying. There's no other way to explain, this behavior. Has provided income in the millions of dollars from PayPal, Shopify, but this income is not tied to the entities named in the lawsuit, Frank Tufano or Frankie's Free Range Meat. They're tax documents with your name on them. What is he talking about? Like, that is unhinged. He's saying, not only is it not from Frankie's Free Range Meat LLC, but it's also not money going to him. They're literally your tax documents with your name on it. Like, that is fucking insane.
Went vegan after too long. Strength is still there. I'm 29. It's been about 2 weeks, so I'm no saint, but I always appreciated your righteous indignation on veganism. Be well, thanks.
Well, that's good. As long as you make the right decision eventually, I won't have to kill you. But thanks for the donation, Matt. Appreciate you making the right choice, and thanks for the donation. Frank Tufano providing his personal tax document is a gesture showing that his attempted business operations have not been as successful as Paul. You made $5 million in gross revenue. Frank Tufano has made no personal profit from any of his business operations from the year 2019. Please explain your fucking tax documents then. Like, this is so retarded. Attempted to link the websites Frank Tufano, Frankie's Free Range Meat to entities in the lawsuit. Like, again, just the same lie. Lawsuit brought up by Tufano is to demonstrate the cease of operation of the... He keeps saying the same thing over and over again. Like, this is just crazy. Same thing again. Same thing again. Same thing again. He keeps repeating the same argument over and over and over again. Oh yeah, secret society connections to social media. So he's basically saying Paul's friendly with Jews or something. Frank Tufano has lost his domicile in New York, his business in New York, family relatives abandoned him. Yeah, woes me. It's clear that Frank Tufano has not been represented fairly by his attorney. Cool story, dude. Frank Tufano has been suffering from significant medical issues. He mentioned this already like 5 times. Yeah, this guy is just absolutely fucked, dude. His like best case scenario for him is he needs to get an IQ test and a comprehensive mental health assessment and prove he's retarded. Because like he's clearly retarded. No one would read that and think that guy is like all there. It's a combination of stupid and crazy.
Who told me that she rents a storage space to keep her seasonal decorations. I made the mistake of assuming that she meant Christmas decorations, only to learn that there are many more holidays that require inflatable decorations.
Absurdism is a philosophical perspective that suggests the universe is inherently irrational, meaningless, creating conflict between humans' desire for meaning and the universe's lack there. Yeah, so I've heard, somebody told me about absurdism. It sounds absolutely fucking stupid. So for one thing, I don't know how you can claim the universe is irrational. I mean, I don't think science would work if the universe was irrational. There's clearly some sort of mathematical theorem you can use to describe the goings-on in the universe. So it's not like gravity suddenly works and then doesn't work or anything. There's some sort of physical consistency throughout the universe where there's predictability. I don't know what's meant by the universe being irrational. And if humans have a desire for meaning, well, meaning comes from your mind. You can have anything you want be meaningful. Just because there's no inherent meaning to anything, that doesn't mean you can't impose meaning.
And that the Christmas decorations really only took up about 10%.
Yeah, I think I like cats better than dogs. Cats are very special. Isn't that right, Gum Gum? Yeah, that's my Gum Gum. Oh my goodness.
And the for storage locker. American shoppers love convenience too. Not only are there drive-through liquor stores in the United States, there are drive-through bars too. Some even seem to offer Sunday morning discounts. In Louisiana, the Strawberry Daiquiri, it appears, is the breakfast of champions. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Americans spend twice as much on jewelry, watches, books, and phones today as they did 25 years ago. New American homes are almost 25% bigger today than they were 25 years ago, and Americans throw away 5 times more consumer waste.
Well, to be fair, Americans are also more than 25% bigger than they were 25 years ago.
Than they did in 1980. A lot of this is driven by goods deflation, where things like clothing, furniture, and electronics are cheaper than they've ever been before. But the goods have often fallen in price because they've declined in quality too. Before we dig into that, let me tell you about this week's video sponsor, Delete Me. Delete Me is a broker from hood to request its removes. Remove your. He started at 80s, but getting almost 6 are spending a much lower percentage of their income on clothing today than they did in the 1980s, but getting almost 6 times as many items. A big difference, as many people my age will know, is that the quality of those items has declined significantly over time too. I really noticed this a few years ago when one of my favorite shirts was getting a bit old, and I went online to see if I could find the exact same one to buy. Not only was I able to find it, but the price was cheaper than I remembered. When it arrived in the post, however, and I held it up next to the old one, it was made of a thinner, cheaper fabric, the stitching was worse, and it just didn't fit the way the old one had. I went online to return it, and instead of sending me a shipping label, the seller just gave me a full refund and told me to throw it out. I looked online to find old clothing adverts from the 1980s so that I could compare the prices of similar items you can buy today. This Sears catalogue from 1980 shows a sport coat for $90 and a top coat for $130. Both of these items were on sale at the time. If we adjust for inflation, the sport coat costs $350 and the top coat over $500 in 2025 dollars. Going to the Sears website today, they have a $50 blazer and a $140.
You know, some of this shit doesn't make any fucking sense to me. Where, like, it's literally a jacket for your jacket. Why? I don't get it. It's so dumb.
If we adjust for inflation, the sport coat costs $350 and a $50 blazer and a $140 top coat, so quite a bit cheaper than in the past. The 1980 advert, you'll notice, focused on the quality of the materials. The wool is hand-woven Harris tweed from Scotland. The advert tells us about the lining and the leather wrap buttons too. You'll notice that both items come in a number of different sizes. The modern item, which is celebrity endorsed, gives us none of that information, other than that it can cause cancer and reproductive harm to California residents, which is really why I'd never live there. And the top coat is one size fits all, which I guess makes sense as we're all the same size nowadays. If your dad bought that tweed blazer 45 years ago, he likely still has it in his closet today. While if you're planning on buying either of the new items, I'd recommend having them shipped straight to the landfill to cut out the middleman. Should we look at the quality of the photo they're using to advertise that top coat? They clearly spared no cost in putting that advert together. It's aimed squarely at the man who uses Siri or Alexa to buy his clothes. Alexa, buy me a coat. No, I don't live in California. That shouldn't affect me. It'll be fine. The way the clothing industry works has changed a lot over the years. In the 1980s, it used to take around 9 months for an item of clothing to be designed. A big store like Sears would then order each item in bulk in a variety of different sizes, and these items would be available in the store for maybe 6 months. If they didn't sell, this was a problem, and for this reason, a lot of thought went into finding the right items and providing quality at every price point. The term fast fashion first appeared in 1989 in a New York Times article about a new retailer at the time called Zara. Zara, they explained,
Drake Donatello is pretty antisocial, so when I was going on a walk outside and some lady with her dog screamed, "Hi, how are you?" I just walked away and went about my business. Lady then called me a fucking asshole for ignoring her. Would you say I was in the wrong? No. You don't owe anybody a hello back, so. Thanks for the donation, though, Drake. Appreciate it.
was able to go from idea to having an item in the store in 15 days because they had built a network of factories around their headquarters in Spain. They would manufacture small test batches of clothing, ship them to the stores, discontinue the ones that didn't sell, and ramp production in the items the customers bought. Their approach didn't require them to predict trends. They just had to respond quickly to demand. They were able to make copies of high-end designer clothes within weeks and make them available cheaply by using low-quality fabrics and zips. Fast fashion brands, over time, started putting spandex in everything, as the more the fabric stretches, the fewer sizes you have to make. This reduces manufacturing costs even further, but it also means that clothes...
Oh, that makes sense. I remember in the 90s, spandex became really fucking popular. That explains it.
Never really fit all that well to begin with, and they wear out very quickly. The same sort of thing that happened with clothing happened with furniture too. People were happy to buy disposable furniture as long as it was cheap and on trend. We started to see manufactured goods where plastic was used where metal used to go, and glue was used instead of fasteners.
Oh, yeah.
These new products were cheap, which people really like, but they didn't actually last. Chinese brands like Shein and Temu managed to undercut Zara by moving even faster, having no physical stores, not owning the factories, instead treating them like Uber drivers hooked up to an app, and exploiting a tax loophole known as the de minimis exemption. The de minimis exemption became law in the United States in 1930 to allow Americans to skip import duties for small value shipments. It was put in place so that people could bring souvenirs home from their holidays without being taxed. Most countries around the world have a version of this rule, but the United States had the highest exemption rate of $800 per item. Americans who've ordered goods from another country online that cost less than $800 over the last 10 years have benefited from the de minimis exemption. If they had bought the exact same item from a local store, the price would have been quite a bit higher, as it would have had to include the cost of manufacturing, shipping, warehousing, along with the store's rent and the wages of the US employee who works there. Both Republicans and Democrats have talked about ending this exemption for quite some time, as it made it impossible for stores to compete with brands like Temu and Shein, who could avoid most of those costs and pay none of the taxes or fees a larger volume importer would have to pay. The de minimis loophole hasn't yet closed, but it's about to. Starting on May 2nd, packages from China will be hit with a 120% tax on the value of goods or a $100 flat fee, which increases to $200 per package this June. With the dollar almost 10% off its January highs, massive tariffs on imported goods in place, and big American businesses announcing layoffs, the all-conquering American consumer might finally slow down. One of the oldest sayings on Wall Street is that you should never bet against the American consumer. The people who buy truck nuts don't put their credit cards down that easily. According to Juliet Shore, a sociologist at Boston College, the key driver of consumer spending in America is the role that consumption plays in establishing an individual's position in an unequal society. She says that Americans consume to keep up with their social group. According to her research, people who have reference groups that are wealthier than they are tend to spend more to keep up, and people who have more modest reference groups, even as they gain in income and wealth, tend to save more. According to Scientific American, 6 to 7% of Americans say that they have a shopping addiction, and research shows that online shopping is more addictive than in-store shopping, as buyers get both the thrill of buying and then the excitement of delivery a few days later. Shopping apps like Temu use gamification to draw in customers, where shoppers describe it as feeling like an online casino. A Penn State paper analysing shopping behaviour found that compulsive shoppers tend to search for relatively cheap items when shopping, but then buy lots of them. Apparently shoes, jewellery and cosmetics rank among the top 5 categories of compulsive shoppers' purchases. With high import tariffs kicking in and the end of the de minimis exemption on the horizon.
Sounds like all shit women would buy.
What created the universe? If there was nothing, would you be something? Would you be experiencing nothing, hence being something? Would that be God? There is meaning to life. Get a girlfriend that actually looks like a girl. Answer my question, nigger.
Those are all outrageously stupid, nonsensical fucking questions. So shove it right back up your ass. Thanks for the donation though, God.
Americans can expect to see significant price inflation in the near future, unless all of these new rules are rolled back, as well may happen. The press is reporting that many Americans have already rushed out to stock up on goods before the prices rise. There was a big spike in new car purchases last month, as buyers who may have been holding off on buying a new car rushed out to get one for fear that the prices would be much higher if they waited any longer. Bloomberg reports that Americans rushed out to replace their iPhones too before prices go up. Many Americans are reported to be cutting back on spending on services like restaurants, hotels, and haircuts as they prepare for an economic slowdown. New York Magazine reports that Chinese websites like Shein and Temu are raising prices starting on April 25th, and shipping companies like FedEx and UPS have already added a surge fee for goods entering the US from China. Some people have argued that if prices go up due to tariffs, that Americans will just start buying smaller quantities of higher quality goods. There's no real reason to believe that, however. Typically, tariffs drive up the price of imported goods, but they also allow domestic producers to increase their prices, which they typically do. Ramon Van Meer, who runs a business selling showerheads, ran an experiment on his website last week to see how many buyers would pay more for an American-manufactured showerhead. He gave shoppers the option to buy a $129 made-in-Asia showerhead or the same product but made in America for $239, the price it would cost. He sold 584 of the made-in-Asia showerheads and no made-in-America ones. Apparently, American Apparel ran a similar experiment in 2017 with a much more modest price difference, and the majority of customers still chose the cheaper imported version. The Atlantic reports that trends like zero-waste households, capsule wardrobes, and minimalism are generating more and more interest amongst Americans who are concerned about the waste they create. Farrakalik reports that stores selling second-hand goods are poised to benefit from the new tariffs as consumers look to avoid higher prices by searching for higher quality second-hand goods at lower prices. The moral critique of consumerism is that buying goods can displace more worthwhile activities or more important priorities. But consumption does also create jobs, stimulate economic growth, and can increase our quality of life and standard of living. If you found this video interesting,
blaringly, if you get
Okay, this is gonna be fucking horrific AIDS.
Well, Dr. Oz, it's good to see you again.
as always,
We haven't done anything publicly since 2021.
before I decided to run for office, that was the last time we taped, and you were the last big interview I did. It
Oh, is that right? Oh,
was very helpful. I
so
asked,
that'll teach you to interview me.
exactly.
Career-ending move.
You got me psyched up to
yeah,
go.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
He said, tell the truth and go out there and do battle.
Well, it was actually a weird situation at that time because 3 years ago, there still was very, very few people, let's say on the classic legacy media side, who would do an interview with me. And you were certainly one of the, because we had done something earlier than that too. 2 years before that, maybe?
It
Or
was earlier, I think 2017 or so, 18, that early time period. I say that because when we first decided to invite you, I had an intense battle within the show with people threatening to quit. Because
did they quit?
I'll tell you the story very briefly,
Yeah, okay.
but it's a wonderful reflection of what I think is the ultimate hypocrisy that happens often, certainly within media. Folks wanted to quit. It was performative in general. They wanted to show that they were going to be taking a strong stance against you. And the reasons were obvious.
Yeah.
I know all the accolades they can throw at you. So I challenged the team. I said, well, show me those evidence, because if it's truly those things, I don't want to have them on. I'd never met you before. I had listened to you. I was intrigued by the battle that you had waged around compelled speech in Canada. And I thought big thinkers ought to be heard. And my
There is no compelled speech in Canada. Jordan Peterson just lied about all of that.
job as a television host, I was trained was to, expose the public to ideas that are worth hearing so they can judge for themselves. You're most clear with your health, where you really should be taking charge, because you'll go down a wrong path otherwise. But it's true for almost any other important thing you do, is to make sure you have an opinion on what's best for you. So when I invited you on, I heard different things, and I heard back from no one except one individual, a senior producer, very capable and well respected, said you're homophobic. He happened to be gay, and so I said, bring me the evidence. He brought me evidence, and it was fascinating, because it was you talking on a social site to two gay men, advising them to be thoughtful about their adopted child, because that adopted child might face hardship because it's an non-traditional family they're having. You didn't judge them. I thought you were very caring and loving, as a psychologist would be in that setting. And I confronted my producer with that, and he refused to back down, but he didn't quit. And at that point, I realized that it really wasn't about whether you truly were those ad hominem attack words, but the fact that they just didn't like you to be able to say what you wanted to say because it didn't agree with what they thought you should be saying. And that
Oh, retard doesn't know what an ad hominem is. An ad hominem is a personal attack in place of an argument. Claiming someone is a jackass or a retard or a racist, that's not an ad hominem. That's just a claim. That's just a descriptive claim about somebody. And it may or may not be true.
that is the biggest risk, I think, to free speech in America. And I'm reminded of a very close friend who grew up in Hungary. And he left Hungary when he was about 20 years of age. He's older now. He's in his, just had his 80th birthday. And he said when he grew up, everyone that he talked to, he knew they were lying to him. But that wasn't the problem, Troy. The problem is that
Retard donate $2 women.
You either support free speech or you don't.
He's
and
not
in
an American.
Hold on, it doesn't matter. If you're in the
It should
country
matter.
legally, as he was,
came on a
Lindy,
visa to
either you
study.
understand
Can you
our
stop
laws or you
yelling?
don't, and you don't
Oh my
understand our
goodness.
laws, okay? So our laws in our country indicate,
The Secretary
even
of State
if you're
happens
here,
to agree with me.
I don't care what the Secretary of State cares about or believes, okay? I'm
Well,
telling
you
you what
should,
the
because
law
he's the
is.
guy in charge.
Here's the law, Lindy.
Hold on.
This is the law.
You don't have to be cruel about it.
Do you believe in free speech or not?
Cruz is heated.
Do you believe in free speech or not?
Like losing her.
Oh, no,
I
she's
am.
not.
I am
She's
losing it. I am
passionate.
losing it.
Hold on.
Dude, that is so fucking cringe. Like, who is watching this? Because I know women aren't watching this. Is this just like dudes jerking off to Anita Sarkeesian with her cleavage showing and some legs? And then just watching her freak out at these like 3 dumb fucking chicks who are dumber than her? Like, is that the idea? Like, it's just so bad. There's no way women actually watch that. Thanks for the donation, retard.
that those people knew that he knew that they were lying. And they knew that he knew that they knew that he was lying. So
everyone's in on the game.
exactly. So, as is often said, democracy is based on common truths and totalitarian governments are based on common lies. And he just did not want that. This older gentleman who's such a patriotic American after having immigrated here, fled from Eastern Europe, didn't want that for this country. And yet he saw it. I'm witnessing it. My parents were immigrants to this country, came here loving America for everything it represented. The shining city on the hill, as Reagan called it. It was there for all the world to admire and emulate. And we can't afford to slip on that. I was in Singapore. My show, as you know, aired in 120 countries.
He's saying this while supporting Trump.
So a lot of the world. And I didn't have a lot of competition because in many parts of the world, there aren't health shows. So we were the dominant health show for those 13 years we aired. And I would go around do interviews. And one of the places I went was Singapore. I'll never forget, right before I went on the air, I was on, my show aired right before the national news. So I went on the national news to promote the show. And the anchor, turned over to me and said, please help America. Please save America. And I said, well, I love my country. And of course I'm gonna do my best for it. But why are you warning me about that? And he said, in our country, we have several warring groups, people who don't naturally get along, different ethnic groups, religious groups, and we're on a tiny island. And every time we're about to blow ourselves up and crush that thin veneer of civilization that protects us, someone looks up and says, guys, America pulled this off based on a piece of parchment 250 years old.
He is lying about all of this. Literally all of this. Singapore is very racially and politically homogenous, and they have a remarkably high GDP and economic success considering how small of a nation they are. Like what is he talking about?
If they can do it, again, based on something that was written, we can do it too. So America is a role model for the rest of the world. So when we blow it, they copy us. When we sneeze, they get pneumonia. And that's why the crisis that we have felt over the last several years, exacerbated by COVID, which really just sort of bolded and underlined what was going wrong, is such an opportunity for us as well as potential risk.
An opportunity to put things right again.
To wake people up to what has happened. And I do think it slipped up on us. I don't think most people appreciate.
Oh yeah, are the tariffs the way to solve that, dipshit? Like, this guy's such an asshole.
How hard it was to say what you believe needed to be said and heard. You were a very early example of this. Just blaringly obvious that you should have been allowed to say what you were saying about compelled speech. And yet you were, again, the ad hominem attacks, they can't attack what you're saying, so they have to attack you. And anytime anybody's listening now, you read a newspaper article or anything is, a commentary, and the first thing they do is attack the person rather than the idea, you know that they're on weak ground. Because if I got you on the idea, why would I bother wasting my time attacking you personally? I only attack you personally because you're not worth listening to. I think the arguments around RK Jr. are a good example of this. If you can argue against his ideas, and gosh, there are lots of ways you could do that, then argue them. But stop wasting your time attacking him.
Well, it's also
Like, when people call him an anti-vaxxer, that's not a personal attack. He is an anti-vaxxer. Like, the guy also doesn't think AIDS exists. He thinks, what is it, Gardasil? The Gardasil vaccine causes cancer when it doesn't. Like, the dude's just an absolute nut job. All the criticisms made against RFK Jr. are completely reasonable and legitimate. Like, this is just gaslighting cope bullshit.
Also the sign of someone who's juvenile and relatively simple-minded, because it's a juvenile approach to go for the person. It's simple-minded to avoid the nuances of the situation. And I can understand to some degree why people do that, I think, with me, but also with RFK Jr., because it's hard to believe that the things that I pointed to, let's say in Canada, were actually a danger. And it's hard to believe that the things that he's got his finger on can possibly be true. Like, you have to do a lot of thinking and a lot of reorganization of your beliefs in order to give RFK Jr., for example, credence. And, when I objected to Bill C-16 in Canada in 2016, I had some thoughts about where legislation like that might go if things didn't work out well. And of course, at that point, I still thought they were most likely to, because Canada had been such a...
Halle Berry on that tea, yo. Got my tea levels tested. I'm sorry bro, but you is beta and I the alpha vegan with the most tea, and I don't mean tofu. My tea level 943 nanograms / day El Canelo versus Skull. Who you got? Have a good one.
Started taking testosterone, which I never thought ignorantly, I thought, I'm not trying to grow hair on my chest. Like,
Do you notice a difference with it?
I do.
Me too.
My libido's
back. Yeah, I know.
And I have more
I found
energy.
it again. I found my libido.
Right? Isn't it good when you find that
It's
again?
really good. It was MIA for a little while.
Yeah, there's a lot of women who have, like, no sex drive, and they're given testosterone. It's very small doses, but...
But I eat differently now. I started taking...
Well, thanks for the donation, Tofu God. I don't know who the hell Canelo and Skull are, so... Thanks for the donation, dude. I feel like I might have a fever.
A remarkably stable country. Since then, by the way, we've gone from GDP parity with the US to 60% of GDP per capita in Canada, right? We are on average poorer than people in Mississippi, which is the poorest American state, right? And we have real estate costs that have spiraled out of control, and incredible internal divisiveness in Canada on a scale that is completely historically unprecedented. It doesn't take much of an...
That's not true. That is not at all true. You can look at the election outcomes. There's not a lot of political division in Canada.
An assault on free speech like Bill C-16. They extended the provisions of
Bill C-16 is not an assault on free speech.
Protection, let's say, to gender identity and gender expression, which I thought...
So they just added trans people to the human rights codes. So the same protections under the law that ethnic and religious minorities get, trans people also have those same protections. That's all that is. So, yeah, Jordan Peterson is completely and utterly full of shit. Oh, dear God. I'm going to try my absolute best. But, I think I might be getting a fever.
It was insane beyond comprehension. The outcome of that has actually been worse than I had originally suggested. I did tell the Senate in 2016 that they would produce an epidemic, a psychological epidemic among young women by confusing them about their gender. And I got that exactly right. And so I'm fairly happy about that. Of course, they just told me that I was, transphobic or whatever the hell their epithet of the day was. So tell me, let's talk about...
Oh no, the trannies are multiplying. What are we gonna do? Dude. I really don't care if there's a bunch of chicks with dicks walking around. Like, I don't know why anybody gives two fucking shits. Oh my god. Always, every fucking video complaining about trannies. Shut up, you're fucking boring, dude. This is like, this is like people who fucking complain about people, like, getting coats for their dogs. You know how there's, like, weirdos who dress their dogs in, like, clothes? Like, unnecessarily? Like, they'll literally buy their dogs, like, a hoodie or a t-shirt or something. That's literally what Jordan Peterson is doing. I warned everybody about the epidemic of people finding sweaters for their dogs, and lo and behold, years later I've been vindicated because every time I go outside, I see a dog in a cute little sweater. Like, that's literally his argument about trans people. I don't care. If a dude wants to be a chick or a chick wants to be a dude, great, go for it. Doesn't affect me. I don't care. Go, like, complain about something else for a change.
Free speech and the media in a broader context. Now, you've watched this transition, right? At least that's what it looks like to me. And I think it's driven by the fact that YouTube made digital bandwidth essentially free.
$2 she's Johnny Tiller's VG. Wish you had this much aura. Well, that old guy still has the moves, so... Okay, that's a little weird.
Oh shit, I'm single.
You have a girlfriend?
No, I don't. What about you, man?
I'm single too. I have a daughter. You know, I try to be single because I'm so busy. So I try to stay away.
Dude, I can feel your confidence right now. the hands, bro. Can I take a photo of you to draw?
Well, that's nice. Oh my goodness.
Twix replied, "We take great pride in our products and assure you that we will share the information with our trademarks team who will investigate it further. I hope Frank makes a video bashing Twix. Will electrolytes help your fever when dieting?"
Well, I've been drinking electrolyte things. I don't know if this is from the diet. I'll admit I did something pretty stupid today. I opened up 2 packs of tofu. One of the tofus felt very slimy, which is an indication that it went bad. And I cooked and ate it anyway. I only had 2 packs of tofu left, and I was really hungry, so I just ate it anyway. I might have just eaten, like, bad, rotten food, and that's why I feel sick right now. It's weird, too, because I, like, literally just bought that. I made sure to cook it pretty well, but I don't know if that helped. But yeah, I got that same email. Hopefully, they sue Frank. That'd be fucking hilarious. Thanks for the donation, Tofu God. Oh my god, look at that moose's nose. Oh my goodness, that's a pretty moose. Oh, that's a good moose. Oh, yes. Give that moose a hug. Oh, that is such a nice moose. Oh, my goodness. Oh. So handsome. Oh, my goodness. That's a very nice kitty. So nice. Thanks for the donation, $2 shoes. Yeah, that's not... I don't think that's a coincidence. I just started feeling sick right after eating that.
I think that's the fundamental issue at stake here. And I can't see the legacy media doesn't seem to be able to compete with that. They drop production cost to zero. There's more going on than that, but that's the technological aspect of it.
I think the rot was happening much earlier. And just to rewind this a little bit, I trained in a fairly traditional way. My father was educated actually in World War II in Istanbul, Turkey, which may have been the best medical school in the world because all the Jews from Europe had fled to Turkey. And for that reason, he got a superb education. And when he finished first in his class, he was recruited to America because we wanted people like that, top tier students from high quality universities coming to America. We wanted the brain drain. But I was completely indoctrinated by his way of thinking about a hard science approach to taking care of patients. And at the time, 50s, 60s, 70s, there was remarkable advances being made in the treatment of diseases. You know, the skate saves, metaphorically. You know, the people are about to die, and you get in there and you fix the heart, and you take out the problem, and they're better again. And there was no wrong in traditional medicine. When I started my career at Columbia University, where I'm on the faculty, I was for many years, tenured, because I published and I worked hard, and made sure that I was on the cutting edge of a lot of different fields. I wrote patents around the repair and replacement of heart valves from the groin. I was involved in mechanical heart transplant programs. I ran the Heart Institute. I mean, these are like hard science ideas. So there was nothing wishy-washy about my career. But I began to realize that the patients had not read the same books that I had read, that they were getting it wrong at a very fundamental level and taking care of themselves. So I can throw as much high tech out there as possible, but without some of the lower tech preventive ideas, we weren't going to get the desired responses. And my wife, Lisa, she won't be silenced. She kept saying, they're getting it wrong because you're not giving it to them. If you gave America the knowledge that they could use to improve themselves, to feel confident that they had jurisdiction.
Buddy, this guy was selling supplements on his TV show nonstop. Like, this guy is an absolute fucking fraud, hack, charlatan, grifter. His fucking show is just pure bullshit.
Over their own body to actually play an active role in ensuring that they don't develop those chronic illnesses, that they'll do it. That's why I even started doing media. Otherwise, I was perfectly happy in the operating room, in the ivory tower at Columbia University, having the time of my life, studying scientific things and, making sure that those advances were legit. My dad intensely disliked that I stepped out of that traditional approach to medicine to start talking on the airwaves about health. In the beginning, I didn't think what I was doing was all that controversial. I was literally telling you everything that we knew within medicine. And then things started to change.
Okay, what period of time was that?
So I started doing the Oprah show around 2003, 4, and I started my show in 2009. All that was pretty smooth going. And around 2012, I began to notice a big shift. And I remember one event in particular, there was evidence from several articles that there was arsenic in our apple juice. Now, why would anyone put arsenic in apple juice? There's no reason to do that. It's a derivative of using arsenic as a pesticide or herbicide around the apple. It's a cheap spray. And so America banned the use of arsenic in that setting so that the apples, when you harvest them, when the apple juice is squeezed out of the apples, there's no arsenic in them. Does that make sense?
It seems reasonable.
Okay. What if the Chinese don't do that? What if the Chinese farmers continue to spray with an inexpensive product like arsenic, and then multinational companies buy those apples, squeeze the juice out of it, put it in cartons, and ship it to America? What happens then? Do you think it's a legitimate question? Could there be arsenic in that apple juice? I think so. People had studied it. They said it was the case. We decided to go to the government and say, hey, we want to see your data. Is there actually arsenic in the imported apple juice? And if so, what can we do to make sure that's not a problem? Because arsenic's not good for kids. Primarily children drink small apple juice cartons. It's not, you and I aren't drinking apple juice cartons generally. That stuff's coming for young people. And the arsenic levels in America in our water are capped. You're not supposed to have above a certain amount of arsenic for a reason, because it's not good for you. The government wouldn't share their data. They wouldn't talk to me. And then I started realizing that no one was talking about this. And I wanted to make waves because I didn't think it was right. We did a show, and I just saw a tsunami of negativity. Much of it led by media, who had clearly been played. And I say that because when we finally got the data from the government, which was released the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which anyone who knows
Twix got to him and made him change the name. Look. Lol.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's so funny. Twinks bars. Oh, what a fucking hilarious jackass. We did it. Oh, that's fucking good. Well, thanks for the donation, Tofu God. Twinks. Oh, shit. Yeah, he'd come up with that name, too. What a fucking retard. Thanks for the donation, Tofu God.
Press and PR knows you release data the day before Thanksgiving to bury it because you don't want anyone to see it. But friends came, people who've been attacking me came out and shared openly that they had been incorrect, and there was actually concern about this. And today in America we have limits on the amount of arsenic that can be imported with the apple juice. It shouldn't have been that hard, but I began to see the inner workings of how this game is played. I had a similar problem with GMO food labeling, and I wasn't taking a stance on the show against GMOs per se. It's a separate discussion. I was just saying transparency. Allow consumers to know if the products are GMO. So just write on the label, GMO corn or whatever. And companies didn't want that. And yet every other Western country did that already. It wasn't like I was asking for this ridiculously crazy outlandish concept. It was already the standard in most other countries. We were the exception, clearly the outlier. And then I began to get attacked, not for that exactly, but for other things around that.
Shopify powers millions of businesses worldwide, supporting everyone. Custom to CI.com.
So you think that was really starting to come to a head around 2012, or that's when you saw that?
No, this is by the way, this is going over 5 years of battles. I mean, every year I'm fighting for another reason, for something that doesn't seem that it should be that much of an argument. I mean, these are things that I thought were better for America. Don't you want to label your foods with GMOs? If you disagree with me, come tell me why. They don't tell you why. This is what I'm pointing out. These
GMO foods are safe. It's just so stupid.
These battles happen behind the scenes. If they were to attack me directly on labeling GMOs, they're going to lose. Everybody wants transparency in that reality. Again, I'm not accusing manufacturers that the GMOs are bad for you. I'm not even making a medical commentary. I'm actually making a argument for transparency in the process. You're not going to win that argument. So you don't attack the person telling the story for the story. You attack them for who they are. And now all of a sudden, and I get clues here and there. This is hilarious. They got 10 doctors, so-called peers of mine, even though the lead writer was the head of the cigarette disinformation program, cigarette smoke disinformation program for big tobacco in Europe. The second author went to jail for Medicaid fraud. I haven't done either of those things, by the way. So they're not.
There's so many problems with like being forced to label GMO foods as GMO. One thing, nobody knows what GMO is. A lot of people mix it up with non-organic. Non-organic is not GMO. I'm not sure if it's possible to make a GMO food that is organic. I think that may actually technically be possible based on the USDA standards for organic. So why would you confuse the public? It's sort of like, if a vaccine manufacturer was forced to put on the label of the vaccine contains mercury. Like, it just confuses people. You have an uneducated public, and they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, there's no utility in doing that. So, if GMO is safe, why the fuck would you even bother having that label? It's just stupid. You'd only want to do that if there is a genuine safety concern with a product. Dodo donate $2. Twinks bar, is that supposed to be a euphemism for a dick? Well, a twink is like a skinny gay dude or something, so I think that's what the idea is. Is that gonna make it in the Frank video? What videos do you have planned? Do you have a China video, Frank video? What else also? Yeah, I'm probably still gonna make that video about Frank. I do want to make a worst of the fitness industry on that revival fitness dipshit. This isn't an SNL skit. At cabinet meeting today, Attorney General Pam Bondi claimed that Donald Trump saved 258 million lives, 75% of the U.S. population, in his first 100 days by seizing fentanyl. What?
3,400 kilos of fentanyl since you've been your last 100 days, which saved, are you ready for this, media? 258 million lives. Kids are dying every day because they're taking this junk.
So 75% of the U.S. population would have died if Trump didn't get the fentanyl?
laced with something else. They don't know what they're taking. They think they're buying a Tylenol or an Adderall and a Xanax, and it's laced with fentanyl, and they're dropping dead. And no longer because of you.
What a fucking idiot, dude.
Why do we kill animals?
When it comes to eating food, for example, God didn't just say, okay, you only eat vegetables. He gave us the biological makeup to consume meat. Our teeth.
This guy is like the most unfit, scraggly, just gross looking, physically inadequate fucktard. And then he's like, oh, see, my teeth made to eat meat, just like the cat. You ever see a cat teeth? My teeth like the kitty.
They're not made to eat animals.
No, your teeth, the enzymes in your body, they're all there to digest.
Buddy, I don't even know if you can eat solid food. Like, does this guy have to eat, like, fucking yogurt like Jason Blaha?
Just animal proteins.
Our bodies are not made to eat animals. And that I'm not contesting against Islam per se, I'm contesting it against
science. You're contesting against biology. Can you eat cement?
No.
Why not?
Well, yeah, you can eat cement. It's just that it's not good for you.
You die from it.
Why do we die from it? The reason why we can digest meat and we can't digest cement, there's a reason for it.
Tell me what it is.
Because of the biology, the makeup.
You can eat tree bark. You can eat like practically anything. You could eat weapons grade plutonium. Like, you're gonna die from it, but I mean, what does he mean by this? There's plenty of things that you're not necessarily gonna get any nutrition from, but you can eat and it's safe. Like, there's certain types of clay that are safe to consume and actually have medicinal properties. Ash can actually be good for you to digest, like for your digestion. Like, what? He's just stupid anyway. Like, this guy is literally part of a child rapist cult, so who fucking cares? Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
In RFK's book, The Real Anthony Fauci, he has a chapter called The White Man's Burden, where he attempts to debunk germ theory with rehashed midwit shit like Big Pharma wants you sick otherwise they no makey no monies. Promotes miasma theory lamau.
Whoa. That's bizarre. Like, that's like literally like medieval kind of, you know, it's not even science, it's like medieval wisdom. That's strange. That guy is just completely fucking unhinged, dude. Thanks for the donation, retard.
My peers, but they read an article to the Dean of Columbia asking for my ouster. I'm tenure faculty. You can't just fire me because you don't like me.
So far.
That could change. We'll get to that. That's the whole point of giving someone tenure, so they can speak their mind and have some job security. But the press published it before the dean got the letter. Now you tell me how that happens. So, and then in the letter, they were complaining that I did a lot of bad things, including this GMO crazy idea that I had. And then I began to realize this is actually a very well-oiled machine. It's a takedown.
How are people actually this stupid?
Well, unfortunately, smart people invented things like seatbelts and helmets. And worse yet, we also created laws forcing stupid people to wear seatbelts and use helmets. And those smart people did not realize what they were doing. And now, rather than dumb people driving into brick walls and killing themselves and smashing their heads open, they survive those accidents, and then they go on to have children. So that's why people are that stupid. Thanks for the donation, Nut Muffin.
Because I bought Ink by the Barrel and published it, I'm on network television. I had a production team go out to the headquarters of these guys, which was a shell organization. There was no one there. And you begin to realize that you can get past these guys. But I had a lot of resources. massive show with a lot of people, smart people working hard for me. What about the people who don't have that? I was
Which
wondering,
is everyone.
which is everybody else. And I began thinking, my goodness, these folks are, if they're the only one putting their hands up, they're going to get shot. And then boom, COVID came. When COVID hit, we saw firsthand what happens when in a time of tension, when the answers aren't that obvious and people start offering ideas that you don't want to hear, it's a problem. So I began talking to doctors around the world. There was Didier Raoult was the main virologist, parasitologist in Marseille in France, and he'd had a lot of experience with hydroxychloroquine. So I was curious, could that work? Maybe we should study if that works. Then I find out we're banning the prescription of that medication in New York State.
Hydroxychloroquine does not treat COVID. There was also no mechanistic reason to think that it would ever be a treatment for COVID. And we know why. There was some research showing an association between hydroxychloroquine and survival of COVID. It's because these trials were in regions where parasitic infections were endemic, and standard treatment for COVID is to use corticosteroids, and corticosteroids will make the parasites grow out of control and kill you. So if you give these people hydroxychloroquine, survival rates increase. It's not because it treats COVID, it's because it kills the parasitic infections they had. Like this is just well known and established in the media now, and this guy is still just bullshitting about it.
The governor of the state is banning the right of a licensed doctor to prescribe a medication. It's never before happened in America. And there's not a real good reason
What he's saying is untrue. Doctors can prescribe hydroxychloroquine
for this. In fact, we weren't even willing as a country to study whether this worked. I'm not making the argument that it would have saved anybody. Even to this day, there's still debate over this because it was never actually studied in a way that was acceptable. And we saw
It was studied. He's lying and stupid.
General move away from looking for treatments of COVID infection to only believing that the vaccine was the answer. And it's not that the vaccine is a problem. I was strongly supportive of the vaccine. We'll come back to what ended up happening with its creation. But why would you entertain another thought process that might be perfectly valid? Hey, historically, doctors treated prevent the gunshot wound, but if it happens, treat the patient. Don't lament the fact that the bullet went through the heart. Fix the problem. Put your finger in the hole. Deal with the hemorrhage. And that mindset just wasn't acceptable. And I remember.
No, you're just stupid.
Very vividly, several months into it, I was really upset because there was so much published data that the school should not be closed.
Right.
And so I said it. Now, in retrospect, obviously I was right. But at the time, whether I was right or wrong, we should have had a debate about whether to open schools.
That's for
America.
sure.
The kids in Europe went to school. The kids in Asia went to school. Are those kids different biologically than Americans? So why would we only...
So that's not true. China had a zero COVID policy. All the fucking schools were locked down. I'm pretty sure Japan at least closed colleges and universities. I don't know if they closed elementary schools. Elementary schools were also closed, and college campuses were closed in Canada. And depending on the European country, elementary schools and colleges were also closed. I don't think they bothered doing it in Sweden, but they actually had one of the highest, if not the highest, infection fatality rate of all of Europe. And if I remember correctly, the UK did shut down elementary schools. I guess they wouldn't technically have been a part of Europe at the time, but like this guy just talks out of his fucking ass, dude.
Only take our orders, we think, from special interests, teachers unions, around these school openings and closings. Why wouldn't we, at least in our own country, acknowledge that some states were doing better than others and they were having their schools open? This became a major battle. But I mean, the kind of vitriol that I felt personally just by raising the issue solidified, steeled me to the reality of where we had come, where we no longer could have open discourse. We had Nobel laureates getting canceled. We have people who have domain expertise in the area of COVID, offering thoughtful suggestions about how to manage the crisis better. We ought to be careful in dismissing those ideas. In the operating room, as a heart surgeon, if I'm having an issue and someone else comes in who happens to have expertise in the area and offers me an idea about how to put a stitch or what kind of valve to use or a different technique for opening the chest wall to get in there, I'm at least going to hear them. I'm not going to have them escorted from the premises, never to return, because I didn't want their intrusive thoughts in my mind. There was a fragility around our policy that compelled me to want to eventually run for the Senate. But it also, in many ways, highlighted many of the things we've been fighting for. In the MAHA movement, the Make America Healthy Again movement, the ideas that are being raised are ones that came up on the show over and over again. And not just my show, they were coming up in many other places, but they never could get any air cover. They get smothered, suffocated before they could sort of get airborne. What's happened that I think is very promising is that we're at least now seeing some pushback on ideas about whether or not fluoride is actually a beneficial thing to have in our drinking water. Should there be mandates around vaccines? Can we talk through the revolving door of our federal agencies and the agency capture that is perceived by some? Why is the NI?
Oh, this is just unhinged crazy quackery. Yes, people should be able to choose to not take a vaccine that will save their lives and prevent the spread of diseases to other people. You should be able to get sick and make other people sick. This guy is just crazy.
NIH not actively studying prevention with any kind of aggressiveness. If it's just a trivial part of their budget, they're not doing it because they think other things are curing this other.
That's not true. Massive research and interest has gone into preventing disease. So the new guidelines for cholesterol lowering therapy was due to prevention. So they've instructed family physicians and cardiologists to prescribe statins when they see their patients have elevated cholesterol, and they've lowered that ceiling so that more people are going on cholesterol lowering medications so that they don't get heart disease in the first place. Dodo donated $2. When's the last time you been to a funeral? Not since my grandfather died. Have you ever been sad at a funeral? No. Have you ever cried at a funeral? No. Can you understand why people are sad and cry at funerals? I can, but I don't know why they're at a funeral. Did your mom cry at your grandfather's funeral? I think so. Can't really remember. I'm not sure if she went. I can't remember. Is your grandmother still alive? Yes, she is. Thanks for the donation, Dodo. Yeah, I'm actually starting to get sharp pains up my ass. And I think it's from that rotten tofu I ate. It's probably not a good sign.
Illness is more important, which I do that too, if you want. But you have to study prevention because no one else will do it because there's no money in it. Companies aren't going to profit by studying how to not use their products.
Well, cure without prevention often indicates relapse as well, right? I mean, if the conditions are there to make the disease possible to begin with, and you don't change that, then why is there any reason to presume that it won't recur? I know there are situations where it doesn't recur, but it's, even that dichotomy between prevention and cure seems to be odd from a conceptual perspective.
George, I think metaphorically, if it may help.
So this is absolutely retarded. Gastric sleeves or bypass surgeries are probably the best example of this. That is so far the most effective way to induce weight loss and treat type 2 diabetes. It's one surgery, and you don't have to take any medications. Depending on if you have like symptom relief and shit. There's a treatment that requires no ongoing medication. It's a one and done thing, and it's the most effective way to induce weight loss and help reverse type 2 diabetes. Like, what are they talking about? It's just retardation.
The issue of prevention is about the soil. We have to till the soil, fertilize the soil, protect the soil, use regenerative techniques on your biology to make sure that you're resilient enough to deal with illness and other insults to your well-being. That's what longevity is fundamentally about. It's not about being made perfectly. It's about being resilient enough that when bad stuff happens, you can cope with it. Mm-hmm. And we have actively, in America, without intending so, I don't believe, but nevertheless actively made it.
By the way, it's extremely hypocritical for him to say this shit because on his stupid Dr. Oz TV show, every fucking episode was him promoting some sort of weight loss supplement. So this guy's talking about how, oh, the pharmaceutical industry just wants to get you hooked on drugs and you just have to keep taking a drug. And then he's telling people to take a weight loss supplement. Like, this guy is just an absolute fucking fraud.
Difficult for people to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. We've chummed the waters with products that make bad behavior simple. Federal policies have over and over again subsidized products that aren't as healthy for us. And we, you and me, and our brethren have let the country down.
Well, the gastric bypass operation did work for Boogie. He did lose a lot of weight. It's just that he's also a retard and a glutton. So he's better off than he would have been if he never got the operation. Like, if you look at earlier on in his YouTube channel, he is way, way lighter. He did lose a lot of weight. It's just that he's still an insane fat fuck. So it's not like... If you're an absolute retard like Boogie, yeah, gastric bypass or sleeve or band operation isn't gonna turn you skinny, but it still works. You're going to lose weight from it. Dodo donated $2. Dr. Oz has done thousands of open heart surgeries. Would you let him do yours if you needed one? No, not him. If he was assigned to do it at the hospital, or would you request a different surgeon? Yeah, I'd get a different surgeon. Also, do you have a good relationship with your grandmother, and how old is she? I do have a good relationship with her. She's really nice. Can't remember how old she is. I think she's like in her 80s. 83, 4, 85, something like that. Thanks for the donation, though, Dodo.
Because the intellectual elite, knowledge worker groups haven't been honest, or at least haven't been willing to challenge some of the fundamental assumptions we've made about our well-being. So we now have bad science or bad conclusions from science being infused with in the products made by industry, which aren't in our best
Give one fucking example of that, dude.
interest. Wrap that in bad policy and then dish it to people, serve people with that.
And that's also had an effect on the legacy media. Like we've got three things sort of in the air now that we're discussing simultaneously, and it'd be useful to see if we can untangle them to some degree. We have the transformation that you described on the legacy media landscape that started to take place around 2012. We have the complicitness and the malfeasance and the silence of the scientific and medical community, let's say around COVID, but even more broadly on the scientific front, right? And then we have this emergent Make America Healthy Again movement that, interestingly enough.
Thanks for your vid. It was something I needed to hear, as well as at Life Stomper apparently.
Life Stomper? Well, glad you enjoyed my video, anyway. Thanks for the donation, darling. Let me take a look at some of the... Oh my god. I really shouldn't have eaten that rotten tofu. I think it's the tofu. It was seen... Oh dear god, it's bad. This is like reading a Reddit post written by a 16-year-old. I don't know what the fuck they mean by that. Alright, looks like it's getting a good response.
Leaked the videos in the initial Kiwi Farms leaks, solo tiny leaks.
VG got ass fucked too hard, donate $2. Watch this next. Let's just watch this now. Thanks for the donation, VG.
Quran, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 28 and 29.
Tofu shits. 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 Don't end stream.
I'll try to hang in for as long as I can, dude. I don't know if I'm gonna have diarrhea or not, but I am feeling something. I'm just getting sharp pains, like in my intestines, and I feel like I have a fever. And I'm getting these weird, flashy feelings. It's hard to explain. Thanks for the donation, though, Tofu Shits. Dodo donated $2. How long into your relationship with Jasmine were you before you had your first fight? What was it about? Maybe a few weeks? She was just complaining about me not giving her enough attention. When did you first start doubting that you love Jasmine anymore? Well, I never doubted that I loved her, but as soon as the breakup happened, all gone. So, no, I was in love till the very end, but then when she, yeah, and I'll be able to talk about this more later, but yeah, when it was done, I was done too. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
9 were revealed 2 years after the conquest of Mecca, during a time when Prophet Muhammad observed that many of the Arab polytheists still performed Hajj rituals in Mecca.
Ali, Abu Bakr, go to Mecca and inform the Quraysh that Allah has commanded. After this year, no mushrik will be permitted to go to Masjid al-Haram to perform Hajj, and no one will be allowed to perform tawaf around the Kaaba while naked.
Ali and Abu Bakr went to Mecca to pass the message from Allah and His Rasul.
The Prophet has declared that after this year, non-Muslims shall not be permitted near Masjid al-Haram. As the Quran states, O you who believe, indeed the polytheists are impure, so let them not approach al-Masjid al-Haram after this year. From now on, no polytheist will be allowed to perform Hajj.
But Hajj is the foundation of our economy. If non-Muslims are banned, our markets will collapse, trade will suffer, and we will lose our livelihood.
And if you fear poverty, Allah will enrich you out of His bounty. In other words, you will be compensated for the closed markets you feared.
How will that happen?
By collecting jizya from the people of the book, Jews and Christians.
Allah compensates Muslims for their losses through the jizya collected from the people of Dhimma.
What if they refuse to pay?
Then they must be fought until they pay the jizya willingly in a state of submission, which is disgraced, humiliated, and belittled.
Then we must raise our weapons to force the Christians and Jews to pay us for the money we have lost by embracing Islam.
Is that fair to them? They haven't done anything wrong to us. Why should they pay for our financial loss?
Previously, they earned their living through honest trade by facilitating the Hajj for pilgrims. Now they are instructed to forcefully extort money from people of other faiths, shifting from commerce to mafia-like criminal activity.
What will the Muslim army do when it has conquered your infidel land? If you don't want to convert to Islam, the Muslims will take your money in exchange for your life. This extortion is called jizya. Most of Westerners have no clue what jizya is and thinking that jizya is an example of tolerance in Islam. The most obvious examples of the implementation of jizya in the modern world is what the Islamic State has done to non-believers, in this case Christians, in terms of jizya. In the event where the Islamic State slaughters some 30 Christian Ethiopians in Libya on April 2015, the spokesman repeatedly pointed out that payment of jizya is the only way for Christians around the world to safeguard their lives.
But whoever refuses to pay a jizya will see nothing from us but the edge of a spear. The men will be killed, and the children will be enslaved, and their wealth will be taken as booty. This is the judgment of Allah and His Messenger.
When the Islamic State invaded ancient Christian regions around the Nineveh Plain, June 2015, it again declared,
We offer them, the Assyrian Christians, 3 choices: Islam.
Good God, if Muslims ever incorporate Sharia law in America, then it will be a literal planet of the apes.
There are far too many racists in America for that to ever happen. Thank fuck. It's one of the few circumstances in which racism is good for something. But thanks for the donation, Dodo. Sarah donated $2, most moral army on earth, right? End of Louis Theroux's documentary has died from the idea of hunting Palestinian suspects. Oh, this is Louis Theroux's documentary. It's just nonsense. Okay, so nothing happened. It's just stupid. At least 40 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes across Gaza. Yeah, that happens when you drop bombs. Maybe you should, like, Google what war is. I don't know why the hell anybody's... Like, just what point are you making? Oh, Palestinians are starving. Right, that's why half the people here are fat. So all these kids are normal weight. Oh, look, a fucking obese person. Yes, clearly starving. Yes. See how starving that woman is? That's why her cheeks are so big and puffy. And that's why her stomach is so huge. Because she's starving. Oh, look, another starving person who's overweight. Like, this is just fucking retarded. So they're either all normal weight individuals or they're fat. Yeah, look at this starving child who's overweight. Yes. Get fucked. You're fucking retard. Thanks for the donation, Sarah. Dodo, donate $2. When can you talk more about Jasmine stuff? You just said you can talk more about it later. When is later, and what do you mean? Also, are you going to make another video making fun of the Prophet Muhammad? Please, please. Yeah, I'll probably do that eventually. Just be patient, Dodo, okay? You're just gonna have to be patient. Thanks for the donation, dude.
The Dimmer contract, involving payment of jizya. If they refuse this, they will have nothing but the sword.
The Islamic State is not alone in calling for jizya from Christian infidels. In 2002, Saudi Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman, discussing the Muslim prophet's prediction that Islam will eventually conquer Rome, said,
"We will control the land of the Vatican. We will control Rome and introduce Islam in it." Yes, the...
Thoughts on this cringe?
Literally doesn't matter. He can prep with whoever he wants. He can prep with Benny Morris if he wants. There is no what you support terrorism ? No, I don't. I don't support the state of Israel, and I don't support the state of the United States of America.
Yeah. I wish Trump knew who Hassan was so he'd get fucking deported. Bro, Trump ICE raid on Hassan would just be perfect.
But I'm about to say something controversial again.
Do it.
Shocker. So,
you're kidding.
The great replacement theory that they call neo-Nazi ideology.
Okay, explain for everyone what that is.
So, for those who aren't familiar, it's the idea that Democrats are letting in millions of people from like South America, Central America, like random parts of the world, Africa, whatever. And they want to bring them into these democratic strongholds, and they're registering them as voters to create this permanent, illegitimate electoral majority. And
that's not great replacement theory.
when Tucker Carlson said this, when other people said, when Elon said it, they labeled him as Nazi, as Hitler. I actually think it's happening.
I mean, you look at the state, when you look at all of the states that Harris won.
So first of all of these states have always historically voted Democrat. So I don't know why they would need immigrants to come in. Like it's not like none of this is done by popular vote. It's done by electoral college victories. So I don't know how this benefits them. On top of that, if you're not an American citizen, you can't vote in a federal election. So what does any of this matter? And if she actually believed in great replacement theory, then she should have the position that she should never be able to have kids because she's fucking Asian. She would be part of the problem with the great replacement theory. What a dumb bitch, dude.
Really hard to defend and I want to know what you're doing about the genocide in Gaza. You have war
By the way, AOC has said she's in favor of stopping arms shipments to Israel. She's publicly stated she thinks Israel is committing a genocide and they still heckle her. Like, it's just some stupid political purity test.
Oh great, more racist nonsense. Can this country get any worse?
Oh, it can get a lot worse. But thanks for the donation, Dodo. Alright, well, pro-pally-tards.
Actual real question, what will it take for you to stop talking about Ethan? He apologizes. I mean, this is going to be, well, as I said already, I will be reacting to the context nuke in real time, alongside iDubbbz and maybe some other people as well, live to fundraise for not just the Creator Clash in general, but the charity that they want to fundraise for. I will be doing that, and that will be most likely the last time I talk about it, unless he turns around and actually tries to do fucking more Hasbro. Outside of that, it needs to reach a
He's been talking to iDubbbz, and clearly they're gonna lose a lot of fucking money on that event.
A level of like Israel defense that I think is unconscionable for me to talk about it, which was my initial standard anyway.
Well, there you go. What a bunch of fucking retards. Thanks for the donation, retard.
Christians will yet pay us the jizya in humiliation, or they will convert to Islam.
A prominent imam, Sheikh Issam Amira, gave a sermon in the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem in which he lamented that too many Muslims think that jihad is only for defense against aggressors, when in fact Muslims are also obligated to wage offensive jihad against non-Muslims.
When you face your pagan enemy, call them either to Islam, jizya, or seek Allah's help and fight them. Even if they do not fight or initiate hostilities, fight them. Fight them. When? When they fight you. No, when they refuse to convert to Islam or refuse to pay jizya. Whether they like it or not, we will subjugate them to Allah's authority.
The doctrine and history of jizya. So what exactly is jizya? The word jizya appears in Quran Surah At-Tawbah verse 29, in an injunction that should be familiar by now. Fight those among the people of the book, which are Christians and Jews, who do not believe in Allah nor the last day, nor forbid what Allah and His Messenger have forbidden, nor embrace the religion of truth, until they pay the jizya with willing submission and feel themselves subdued.
Oh, for the love of God, people, once again, there is nothing wrong with genkading people who are already Nazis, even if they're just children. Hashtag Nazi lives don't matter.
Yes, I agree with that, Dodo. Thanks for the donation, dude.
In Hadith Sahih Muslim 1731a, the Messenger of Allah Muhammad regularly calls on Muslims to demand jizya of non-Muslims. If they refuse to accept Islam, demand from them the jizya. If they agree to pay, accept it from them and hold off your hands. If they refuse to pay jizya, seek Allah's help and fight them. The second righteous caliph, Omar al-Khattab, reportedly said,
"Any conquered infidel who refuses to convert to Islam must pay the jizya out of humiliation and lowliness. If they refuse this, it is the sword without leniency."
This theme of non-Muslim degradation appears regularly in the commentaries of Islam's authorities. According to the Medieval Islamic Civilization Encyclopedia, Muslim jurists came to view certain repressive and humiliating aspects of dhimma as de rigueur. Dhimmis, subjugated non-Muslim Christians and Jews, were required to pay the jizya publicly, in broad daylight, with hands turned palm upward, and to receive a smart smack on the forehead or the nape of the neck from the collection officer.
Some of Islam's jurists mandated a number of other humiliating rituals at the time of jizya payment, including that the presiding Muslim official slap, choke, and in some cases pull the beard of the paying dhimmi, who might even be required to approach the official on all fours in bestial fashion.
Put simply,
Dodo donated $2. Are you saying Islam is fundamentally fascist? Yes, it absolutely is. Thanks for the donation, Dodo.
conquered non-Muslims like us must pay for our lives, which would otherwise be forfeited to the Muslim conquerors.
Instead of taking our lives, they took our money.
Our lives and possessions are protected only by the payment of jizya.
Past and increasingly present, Muslims profited immensely by exacting jizya from conquered peoples.
For instance, Amr bin al-As, the companion of Prophet Muhammad who conquered Christian Egypt in the early 640s, tortured and killed any Christian Copt who tried to conceal his wealth. When a Copt inquired of him,
"How much jizya are we to pay?"
the Islamic hero replied,
"If you give me all that you own, from the ground to the ceiling, I will not tell you how much you owe. Instead, you, Christian Copts, are our treasure chest, so that if we are in need, you will be in need. And if things are easy for us, they will be easy for you."
Yet even that was not enough. Caliph Uthman later chided Amr bin al-As
because another governor of Egypt had managed to increase our treasury twice as much as you had. You had to milk the camels, the Christians of Egypt, to produce more milk.
Years later, yet another caliph, Suleiman Abdul Malik, wrote to the governor of Egypt advising him,
"You better milk the camel more until it gives no more milk, and until it milks blood."
Little wonder Egypt went from being almost entirely Christian in the 7th century to today having a mere 10%, and steadily dwindling thanks to ongoing persecution, Christian minority. Related to the idea of institutionalized jizya is the notion that non-Muslims are fair game to plunder whenever possible.
According to the jizya entry in the original edition of the Encyclopedia of Islam, first published in 1913, with or without doctrinal justification, arbitrary demands for money appeared at times.
Even that medieval traveler, Marco Polo, whose chronicles appear impartial, made an interesting observation concerning the Muslims in Tauris, modern-day Iraq, in the 13th century.
According to their doctrine, Islam, whatever is stolen or plundered from others of a different faith is properly taken, and the theft is no crime. Whilst those who suffer death or injury by the hands of Christians during the course of a plunder-driven raid are considered as martyrs. These principles are common to all Saracens Muslims.
All this is echoed in recent times by the words of Sheikh Abu Ishaq al-Huwaini, spoken a few years ago, concerning what the Muslim world should do to overcome its economic problems.
Yeah, well, that's why they're poor. Sarah, donate $2. This is just Islamophobic propaganda. Jizya as a tax. Yeah, just like how The mafia taxes people, right? Name one country that doesn't tax its citizens. You're retarded. It's not okay to tax the populace when an Arab nation does it, but it's okay for Israel or any other country to tax people living there. Okay, well, why don't you go move to Afghanistan? Thanks for the donation, stupid.
Fuck it. I'll say it. Bring back the off-putting mid-2000s video game animations. The AI videos are gay and not nearly as entertaining. What the fuck is Nabi problem? The weird animations were the best part.
I guess they're time-consuming. So, thanks for the donation, retard.
كل واحد مجاهد كان بيرجع من الجهاد وهو جيبه مليان.
Is unicorn plate cat food good enough for cats? I don't know what the fuck that is.
ليه معاه 2 3 شحطة و3 4 نسوان و3 4 ولاد. اضرب كل رص 300 درهم ولا.
Okay, I'm gonna have to end stream. I'm very sick from eating that bad tofu. I'm not gonna eat rotten food again. So hopefully I don't have very bad food poisoning. I can just get over this tomorrow, but I'm gonna have to go lie down and rest. I'm very, very sick right now. So sorry about that. But I'll be on tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Big thanks to everybody who donated on Streamlabs. Sorry again, but I'm very sick. But I'll try to get better for tomorrow, okay? So I'll see you tomorrow, if I'm not dead. And sweet dreams.